I'm Lisa with Craft Your Practice, and we're at episode 24, the New Therapist Confidence Guide. Why the ready feeling comes after you start, not before. So, the confidence that you're waiting for, the feeling that you finally are ready, that you know enough, and that you are not going to get it wrong, does not arrive before you start. It arrives after. It builds slowly out of decisions that you made, held, sessions that were hard and went well, times that you trusted your own judgment and it turned out to be right. So if you've been waiting to feel ready before you fully step into this work, stay with me today because that wait is keeping a good lot of clinicians small. And we're going to look at what confidence in private practice really is and why your confidence almost always runs ahead of the feeling of it, and what to do in the stretch before the confidence catches up. So, part one, the ready feeling is on the other side of the door. Most new therapists are waiting for a particular signal before they'll act with any authority, and they're waiting to feel ready. That feeling is not something that you generate by preparing more. You earn it by doing the thing that you do not yet feel ready for. So think about how you actually learned anything that used to frighten you. You didn't sit and gather up enough certainty for the fear to dissolve and then begin. You began while you were still afraid. The fear gave you less and less trouble as you went. And one day you noticed that you weren't thinking about it anymore at all. So the confidence came first and the feeling that followed it. That order does not reverse just because the work is clinical. When you tell yourself that you'll raise your fee once you feel more established, or take that harder case once you feel qualified, or put yourself out there once you feel more legitimate, you are putting the feeling before the action, and it just does not run that way. So the feeling comes out of the action. Waiting for it first is like standing in front of a cold fireplace asking for heat before you're willing to put the wood in. So, part two, what confidence actually is. Confidence in private practice is not the absence of self doubt. I've been doing this for more than 14 years, and I still have sessions that leave me wondering whether I said the right thing, whether I pushed too hard or held back too long, or whether I'm really helping this particular person. That questioning doesn't go away with experience. And honestly, the day that it does disappear completely is the day that I would start to worry about my own work. The doubt is part of taking the work seriously. What changes with experience is what you do with the doubt. A newer therapist tends to read it as a verdict. They finish hard sessions, feel the uncertainty, and decide that they're not good enough and that they blew it and that the session failed. A more experienced therapist feels the very same uncertainty and treats it as information. They ask they ask what it's pointing at, whether there's something to adjust. They decide whether it's worth bringing to consultation, and then they let it shape the next session. The doubt is the same. What is different is how much it runs the show. Confidence is not that inner voice going quiet. It's just that you are no longer run by it. So you are more confident than you feel. Confidence and the feeling of confidence are two different things. And for most new therapists, the confidence is already further along than the feeling. So I want you to hear that because it changes what you do next. You were trained for this and you did the graduate coursework. You sat through supervised hours. You were evaluated by people whose whole job was to decide whether you were safe and effective, and they signed off. So none of that makes you feel ready because the feeling lags the skill, sometimes by years. And the gap that you're feeling is usually not a competence gap, it's a feeling gap. And the two are easy to mix up because they live in the same body. This matters because new therapists make decisions all the time as if they were less capable than they are. They refer out cases that they are fully equipped to handle because the case feels intimidating, and they read intimidation as proof that they can't do it. They undercharge because they assume that their work is worth less than the work of someone who just happens to feel more comfortable. And they soften their clinical impressions in the room because they don't yet trust the instinct that is actually well trained. So I'm not telling you to work past your scope. Scope is real, and knowing the edge of yours is part of being good at this. What I'm telling you is that the edge of your competence and the edge of your comfort are two different lines, and that if you let comfort decide what you take on, you will spend years working well below what you can actually do. Part 4, where real steadiness comes from. So, if the feeling of confidence is not something that you can manufacture by waiting, the natural question is where it does come from, because it does come, and the way it works is worth understanding. Real steadiness in this work is evidence based, and you are the one who gathers the evidence. Every time you make a clinical decision and hold it, you add a small piece. Every time you sit with a session that felt difficult and watch the client come back and keep working, you add another layer. Every time you trust an instinct and it turns out sound, every time you hold a boundary and the relationship survives it, and every time you say the hard true thing in the room and it doesn't fall apart. The confidence is the weight of that record gathered over time. That's why it can't be rushed and can't be faked, and also why it's completely reliable if you let it build. The therapist who has held 200 hard moments is steadier than the one who has held two, not because they are braver by nature, but because they have the evidence and the other one doesn't. So you aren't missing some personality trait. You're early in the process, and that genuinely works. So it also means that the worst thing that you can do is avoid the very experience that would build the steadiness. Every case you refer out of fear instead of scope, every fee conversation that you dodge, and every decision that you hand to someone who feels more sure is a piece of evidence that you chose not to collect. Avoidance does not protect your confidence, it stars it. So, part 5, what to do while it catches up. So, here's what to actually do in the in between, the stretch where you're confident and don't yet feel it, because that's where most of you are sitting right now. So start by acting in the direction of the confidence that you do not feel. Make the clinical decision that your training points to and hold it even with the doubt right there. You are allowed to feel unsure and act like a professional at the same time. The action does not need the feeling to show up first. And secondly, use the consultation as a tool, not a verdict. New therapists often avoid it because asking feels like admitting that they can't do the work. It's actually the opposite. Experienced clinicians consult constantly, not because they doubt their competence, but because good clinical thinking gets sharper against other minds. So, bringing a case to a colleague you trust is not a sign that you aren't ready. It's one of those things that competent therapists do. Third, let the small reps add up without grading every single one. You don't need every session to be a triumph. You need to keep showing up, making decisions, holding them, and letting the record build. Confidence is not a single breakthrough. It's the quiet result of a few hundred ordinary repetitions, most of which felt completely unremarkable while they were actually happening. So there is a practical layer under all of it too. Build the structure that lets you do this without the operational chaos getting in the way. A clear schedule, clean documentation, a fee that you have actually decided on, policies that you're not reinventing every time. The therapists who get steady fastest usually are not the boldest ones. They are the ones who built enough structure that their attention was free to land on the clinical work instead of getting eaten by the mechanics of running a practice. Part 6. The goal is steadiness, not certainty. So the last thing that I want to leave you with is the goal itself, because part of what keeps new therapists stuck is aiming at the wrong one. You are not working toward certainty. Certainty is not available in this work. And the clinicians who seem to have it are often the ones I would trust least because the work really is uncertain, and pretending otherwise is its own kind of mistake. What is available and what actually grows is steadiness. Steadiness is being able to sit inside not knowing, making a thoughtful decision anyway, and holding it and staying present while the uncertainty is still in the room. That's a far more honest goal, and it's one that you can actually reach because every part of it is built through practice instead of handed to you in advance. If you're waiting to feel certain before you fully step into this work, you'll be waiting forever. If you're willing to build steadiness, instead, you are already started. Every time you made a decision and held it, you're probably closer than you feel. The feeling is just running behind the fact, the way it always does, and it will catch up if you keep going. If the thing standing between you and steadier footing is the operational chaos of a practice that you have not fully built yet, that is the part that you can fix directly. I keep the free resources for that at craftyourpractice.com/start, and the link is in the description. That's the last of this run on confidence. If it helped, subscribe so that the next one finds you, and I'll see you in the next episode.